Hi everyone. If you haven't already, please download the Anki and Anki add-ons that we have put in the Facebook description. The instructions should be there. Can everyone just give a thumbs up on React if you've downloaded it already? If you have any questions, please let us know. I think, can everyone see my Anki software? It's on the screen, right?
Yep.
Yeah, okay, sure. I'll just turn it off. I'll just show you the add-ons that you guys have here before we start. This is all the add-ons I have. You can take a screenshot of that if you want. This is just waiting for everyone to come here. This is the heat map add-on. It's quite good. It tells you how many cards you've done a day. So this is like before my exams in November. I think a few of us just did a lot of Anki cards that day, and then afterwards we all just died down. And then because I wanted to keep my streak, so I just did like 1 card a day so that we can keep the streak. But easily you don't have to. So that's the add-on. There's a leaderboard thing that's a fun add-on. I think that's pretty fun. You can add your friends to it, and then you can compare your stats. It gets quite competitive. Yeah, so we'll start in a bit. So there's a global league, and at a point of time, Jason, Braska, I think we used to top like 1, 2, 3, Keely as well. It depends on the number of cards you do. It's quite insane. And you'll realize that if you do Ankis quite a bit, you can do 1,000 cards a day, and you'll hit like quite a bit of cards in the last 31 days. But because it was holidays, so a few of us just haven't been doing that much. That's Australia. I think this guy's in MD2. I think, I'm not sure. Sweet. I think we'll start soon. Just remember just to download all those add-ons that you can, because they'll be very helpful in making the cards. It's on the Facebook description. Also, I'm a big believer that if something looks pretty, you'll tend to use it more. So there's an add-on called custom background and gear icon. Just follow the instructions there, and you'll get like a pretty background as well. Because otherwise, the default Anki is very plain. I just don't like plain things, you know. Like, so if you want to make it look pretty, you can also change this little icon there, and then you can change the color of the heat map. So whatever makes it look pretty is fun, I think. Oh crap, there's an error. Okay, I'll change that later. Yeah, so feel free to ask questions along the way. Just put them into the chat. And it's going to be a workshop, so it'll be great if you guys can have the screen on one side and then Anki open up on the other. So that way you can make Ankis at the same time. I assume most people are MD1s, so we've captured some of the we'll be making Ankis from one of the few of the lecture slides that you have this week. Sweet. I think we'll get started then. It's round.
Sorry, can you just check the message? I've posted a question.
Oh, okay, sure.
Thank you.
Yes, it will be recorded. It's recording right now. So if you don't want your video recorded, you can turn it off. I don't mind. Just type in the message, I think. I think it'll be put online as well. A few of us also trying to make a YouTube video from this. So we'll see how it goes. There's no guaranteed deadline on that. Sweet. Okay, let's get started. So welcome everyone. My name is JT, and I'm one of the 4 Anki boys that we grouped together to make Ankis last year in MD1. Jason and Broska are here, so that's quite good. And Tamarik's the base mode guy. He's the one wearing the WOMS cap. I think he's probably sleeping. I didn't think he was awake this morning. And we also have Keely here, who also was making a lot of Ankis last year, who's also an MD2. So it's really good. I think a lot of people make Ankis, but we don't really talk about it. But then, so now we want to share what we know about Anki because we found it to be such a powerful tool, and hopefully it can help you too. There are many other study techniques out there. It's important to find the one that fits for you. We just found that Anki was really suitable for us. So I'm just, in this workshop, we'll talk about why you should use Anki and how you should use Anki. And I'll pass it on to Jason first to talk about why we should use Anki.
Thanks, JT. So there are 3 major reasons why you should use Anki. Can you go to the next slide? The first reason revolves around the principle of spaced repetition. And this refers to an effective learning approach where content is revised at increasing time intervals until your knowledge is embedded in long-term memory. So if you look in the graph above, if you watch a lecture on day 0, as indicated by the learn something thing, you will naturally forget the material over the coming days along the forgetting curve, going from, let's say, 90% retention on day 0 to around 10% on day 5. However, if you revise the content at specific times, looking at the green arrows, you will remember the content more and keep your retention rate at, let's say, 90%. The good news is that the software in Anki has this feature built in. So by using spaced repetition built within Anki, you often have a better retention rate. You spend less time relearning content and less time cramming before the final exam, as you can often remember the content learned in week 1. So if we move to the next slide, the second major reason to use Anki it revolves around the principle of deliberate practice, which is the idea that you should practice more of what you find difficult, practice less of what you find easy, and finally practice the right amount for each area. You have to be deliberate in what you practice, otherwise you can just waste time on things you find really easy. So there are many methods that people use to achieve deliberate practice. For example, in the image above, some people use a spreadsheet to highlight what areas they know well and what areas they find difficult. However, one of the issues you can run into is frustration and annoyance with trying to determine what content to revise, as well as how much to revise. So moving on to the next slide. The great thing about Anki is that the idea of deliberate practice is incorporated into the software. So it tells you what content to revise, how much to revise, and what content you are finding most difficult, since the program's algorithm will show you what cards you frequently get wrong. So no thinking is required, you can just get straight into the work. So in the image above, Anki calculated that JT over here needs to revise 103 cards for skin anatomy and only 15 cards for melanoma public health. So it may suggest that he's found the melanoma public health lectures a bit easier. The last major reason to use Anki is, of course, the results. Being a medical student, we still all care about our grades, even if we're sometimes told otherwise. And in the image above are the results of us four using this Anki method, which JT will show you how to do in a minute. Our lowest result was 71 and highest was an 84. So by using this Anki method, you could reasonably expect a distinction at minimum, but no guarantees, of course. So now I'll hand over to JT to explain how to use Anki.
If I could just butt in quickly, I think the one thing that it's not only like the reason why I really like our approach to it and doing it in a team is it's made it the actual workload of making Ankis and like throughout the semester much less. So we did pretty well, I think. But also I'd say compared to people who were maybe doing Ankis by themselves, it was like much lighter load, which is kind of cool. So yeah.
Want to chip in, Keely? Keely, I think she did it all by herself, so she's quite a beast there. Some tips?
Yeah, I think it kind of comes a bit later maybe, but definitely doing it alone is a large workload. But the thing that I mainly like about it is that you can tailor, I guess, the content that you're receiving to your previous knowledge. So you don't have to make easy cards if you already know that content from your past studies, because we all come from different backgrounds. So that's what I liked about it mainly, but definitely a large workload.
Can I just ask, did you guys only do Anki for study, or you also did like note stuff and like wrote your own things on the side?
100% Anki. Like I didn't actually write a handwritten note the whole year, pretty much.
Yeah.
Which is coming from a person who in undergrad used to write handwritten lecture summaries, like brief dot points.
Yeah, I think you figure that if you want to do Anki, you have to go full in, because you can't do Ankis because you got to prepare the Ankis and then you just don't have time to write the notes again. It's just the Anki is the notes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
Same
especially
thing here.
I think especially at first when you're like just getting into using Anki and whatnot, because it's such a different learning style, it can seem a bit foreign and uncomfortable. You're like, is this really that effective? So you'll find like a lot of people use Anki in like the first few weeks of med school. And then they're like, nah, this kind of sucks. They return back to like note taking. And then the people that kind of followed through and got over that learning curve with Anki eventually, like you get kind of comfortable using, you get comfortable making cards, you get pretty efficient. Whereas it was kind of common that I'd see other people trying to like go back to using Ankis down the line because they'd see it's more effective. So there is a period where it's going to kind of suck and then it'll get better.
Yeah, so we'll cover that in the timetable that we'll show you later.
And just another thing to add, last thing, with Anki, you can almost use it as a notes database. You can like type up the exact word you're looking for and it'll come up with the card you made. So you can use it as like a lecture, as lecture notes as well, almost.
Sweet. Thank you guys. Thank you for your input and good questions. So moving on, now we get to how to use Anki. So the few things that we'll cover today, there's Anki settings, how to organize your decks, making the Anki cards, and then finally putting it all together. So the first part is your Anki settings. So if everyone could just open up their Anki, and I can do it with you. I believe you can see my screen right now, yeah? Yeah, so you should have a button here beside your deck. So if you haven't made a deck already, just create a deck and just say whatever. Press the button on the side and you should go to options. Yeah. And then within options, you should see new cards. Within new cards, you should change the new cards per day to 9,999, which is the maximum. Okay. If I'm going too fast, please tell me to slow down. You should change that to 9,999 because you want to finish all your cards, new cards in the day. You don't want to just limit to 20 cards because then at that rate, you're not going to learn anything in medicine. There's just too much stuff in med, in MD1 especially. Yep, I can slow down. Yep. If you can't find this thing, it's just options and then this thing will pop up. Doesn't look like that at all. Do you want to?
Right, so tell them to create the deck first. By
Okay,
clicking the
just
button.
create a deck, say Anki workshop. And then it should create something here. And then over there, you should press options. And then your options should be default if you haven't made anything already. Thumbs up for people. Yeah, yeah. All your cards will start popping up. Yep. Thumbs, just pop in the chat if you haven't followed up, then I'll just move to the next slide. Good. Next, you wanted the reviews. It should be at 200, but again, just max it out to 9999. You don't want it. You need to be doing all your cards every day. Very, very important. 9999. You won't, honestly, you might not do 9,000 cards a day, but you want to see how much you have to review, and then you can choose it. I think with all of us, we probably did 1,000 reviews, and then sometimes we had like 2,000 reviews due, or 1,500. We tried to finish all of them, but you're not going to finish all of them.
It'll vary a lot. I didn't have 1,000. I had like sometimes like 500 cards to do. It'll depend on like how many cards you make and what you're kind of we changed our settings a bit, so you might don't expect to have to do like thousands of cards every day. It's not that
yeah
bad.
Like for example, I think I did around like 400 to 500 card reviews per day, which sounds like a lot, but it really isn't. But let's say before the exam, I think the most I ever did in a day was 2,000. So it sounds like a lot, but trust me, it isn't once you understand how quickly you actually go through the questions.
And these are just basic beginner options. If you want to change it up, I've put like this turbo one where you change the easy bonus and you change the maximum interval, but don't do that. We're just going to stick to here. Okay, we're going to stick to the easy ones. If you go to lapses, this one's important because the default setting is set to suspend. So what a lapse is, if you get the card wrong, we've changed it to 4, but if you have 8 times, if you get the card wrong 8 times, it's gonna make the card disappear. So you don't want that, right? You don't want to know like, oh, what's the risk factor for cardiovascular health, right? And then you keep forgetting smoking. You don't want the card to disappear. You want to tag it because then you want to keep revising it, right? So that's the whole point. I don't know why they have the default as suspend, because that means you've given up, but we don't want you to give up. We want to figure out the things that you don't know for deliberate practice. Okay, I think that's all the settings. Is everyone okay with that?
Also, if you don't fully understand what the settings mean, you don't have to worry too much. It'll kind of come with time, like what tag and all that kind of stuff is. Yeah.
Okay.
About the is there optimal like time within between if you get it right and if you get it wrong, like that kind of thing?
Just stick it to the default. I think it's like 10 minutes and then 60 minutes. Just stick to the default for now. Yeah. When you become a pro user, then you can fix it all up and then you can figure out, you can look at graphs too, but we're not going to get into that today. Yeah, maybe in second semester, if everyone's comfortable, we'll have an advanced one. Okay, so how do we sort out your Anki decks? So how do we talk about the decks? The first one is the map. This is the top deck. This is the code at the very top. So for first years, you should be IMED 3220 or something like that. And then within each one, you have the exam. So pre-semester would be your upcoming exam on Friday, right? So all your cards from January to next Friday would be in this deck. And then MCQ2, and then semester Z would be the last, would be the content from MCQ2 to the final exam that's only tested in the final exam. And then within each one, this is where you can put your individual lectures within it. Yeah, so we'll tell you how to number the lectures afterwards, but within each one, that's where you put all the lectures. Okay. All right, now we're going to make the Anki types, and now we're going to create Anki. So we want to make sure that you guys create the Ankis with us. There's 3 main Anki types, and the first one will be closed deletions, okay? So if we go into your deck, this should be your deck, and then within it, you can just press add. You should press add, and then I think when it first starts off, it should be like a basic card. Yeah, so there's no point in making a basic card they're too basic. We want to go with close extra or close. Yeah, I think close. Full, yeah, close. Yeah. And then we're going to teach you how to do reverse close, close hints, and an extra section for the lecture slides. So here's an example. What we like to do, this will be your lecture on Friday, I think, on electrophysiology or something. What I like to do is we screenshot the lecture slide. Command, it's Emily, it's the same as close. I think because I've messed around with it, it's the same as close. My original was in Chinese, it's the same thing. Yeah. So what we like to do is always put the lectures in the lecture slides, in the extra section, because this gives you a bit of context so that you can refer back to it whenever you want, right? Okay, so within this slide, let's say I want to, I'm going to talk about snares, right? So let's just find the keywords within the lecture slide. So snares, mediate, vesicle, fusion. And then within snares, it's just B snares. And then, all right, this is the other one. Yep, that's good. Thanks, Kevin. If you have the symbol thing, if you do a dash and then the crocodile sign, that automatically changes that to a symbol. So you want to start to have these shortcuts remembered. If it's colon N colon, it's up. Colon S colon, it's down. So you want to remember these. V snares on vesicle and T snares on the target membrane. So if you do cards like this, do you see how if it's a normal thing, it'll just have 3 dots. So what we want to do, because these words are very similar, you can actually do a double colon, and this will work as a hint. So I'm using a bit of like math stuff here. If it's A dash, it means like it's similar to snares, but it's not exactly. Yeah. And then afterwards, you can either press this button or you can remember the shortcut, which is Control-Shift-C. This is on Windows. I think it's Command-Shift-C on Mac. And that'll just automatically change it to a close, okay? A close is just a hidden thing, okay? And because of the Anki software, whenever you do that, it'll just jump up to the next number. But because you want to show them at the same time, we're just going to change them to 1. Yeah, everyone clear of that? Yeah, this recording will be available later.
If you keep them at C, C1, C2, C3, that essentially makes 3 separate cards.
So this is just card 1. But on the second card, we want to have vesicle and target membrane as a second card. Yeah, everyone okay with that? So that's our first card. I'll create it now, and then I can show you what it looks like. So this is what it looks like. This is the second card. Do you see that there's the 3 dots, right? That means there's no hints. It's just whatever, right? And if you press the next thing, oh, it'll be like, oh, vesicle, target membrane. So that's how you do the card. And then the other card is this one. Do you remember what we typed in here? That's the hint. So you can make the hint anything. You can write anything inside. And then again, when you see the card, that's what you want to see.
So like, for example, for hints, we've put down like type of cancer or like increasing, decreasing, or constant. So you can put whatever you want in the hint.
Okay, and then I think this is another add-on. This is called the Frozen Fields add-on. So what this helps is if you want to make multiple slides from multiple Anki cards from one slide, you just press this and it'll just freeze this so that you don't have to copy it in again. The second one is just a bit more of a hint thing.
Sorry. How am I going to get that little star again? Like the little snowflake? What was that?
Yeah,
thing?
it's an add-on.
Where do we get it?
Frozen Fields add-on.
How do we get that? Sorry. Yeah. It's a frozen what called?
Frozen Fields, I think. Frozen. Yeah, it's in the Facebook page. Is one of those. I think it's one of Frozen Fields.
And what does it do exactly?
Okay, so let's just say I make a random card, whatever, and then I cover that. So if I press add, this thing will stay here.
Okay.
Yeah, so I don't have to recopy every time. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, good. And then also, sorry, the arrow, how did you do the forward arrow?
Forward and then this.
So it's just imitating a forward arrow, and then it immediately recognizes itself like a dash and a.
Yeah, but you need the add-on as well.
What is the name of that add-on?
Just check the Facebook page. I think it's symbols as you type.
Okay. Beautiful. Sorry for the interruption.
No, welcome. Thank you. Okay, so this is the other one. So this is a important card. So the hint that we want to put here is ion, because it could be anything binding, right? So close that. The important other thing that I raised earlier was a reverse close, right? So you want it because you want to know that this thing is related to calcium and the other way around. You don't want it just to go one way. So if I create that card, I press add, and I'm gonna show you the card now. So we have no hint there. That's important. But if we only had this card, we'll forget about the calcium, right? Because this is the prompt. And then the other way would be this is activated by ion binding. Yeah.
So how did you do that again?
Sorry.
What did you do? Double colon? Or was it?
So you just press this button.
Yes. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So close and then a C2, isn't it?
It'll automatically go to C2.
Right, but how did it create the reversing thing? Did you do close reverse or just close?
We call it a close reverse, like as in it's better to create another card as well if it's related to this.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you want it to work both ways, your memory.
Right.
Yeah. Does anyone have any questions on closes? That's essentially how you should do it. Sometimes we have like closes of like 10 closes. It just keeps on going. But the important thing is you want to do keywords. You don't want to do activated. Like it doesn't add anything to your memory.
JT, do you just want to quickly show them how you actually close the words by like highlighting and pressing Control-Shift-C?
Sure. I believe I was doing that the whole time, but that's okay. So you can highlight that and press this button. I'll just go to that, or on your keyboard, Control-Shift-C.
I just have a question about the double colon A thing as the hint. What you say you can put whatever hint you want there. What do you mean?
Protein.
Oh, instead of the A. Yeah. Okay.
I don't know. Starts with S.
Yeah. Cool. Thanks.
Yeah, I think that's one thing that most people don't know. And then sometimes, if I choose to do say activated, right, then I can change that to like verb.
So
something I like to do as well. Yeah. Oh, sorry, I was just going to say for the activated one, something I like to do with the hints is to make the hint like activated / inactivated, and that way you know you're just choosing between two things. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks there. Yep.
Just a quick question.
Yep.
So when you're trying to add a clue, so after the closed deletion symbols, it's like 2 dots.
Yeah.
Two pairs of dots, and then you write your clue.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So you just use your keyboard to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So how do you close the clue off? You know.
Okay.
Because you got a double column, 2 double columns, and then.
So that's the word I want to close, right? So I'll press close.
Yep.
And then on my keyboard, I'll just do double colon. And then just write hint or whatever I want to write.
And then it will only hint that word activated, right?
It'll hint whatever's behind this.
Okay, but so the moment you put a space afterwards, you remove the activation. You remove the hint.
You remove.
Right? Yeah. So sorry. The point is, straight after double column, you just put the word down. Okay. No, I got it.
You can do whatever, and then it'll show up like this. If you don't put anything, it'll show up like that.
I'll talk to you later, Mariam. I get it.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Great.
Yeah. This is the hint. Whatever you put. It doesn't even have to be a hint. It can just be whatever you want. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sure. Okay, good. Does anyone have any other questions on closes?
The reverse close, you just go, right now you've done close extra, but I have to do a reverse close, is that right?
No, just use close. Your
Just
on your
use-
on your Anki, it should just be close, I think.
Yeah, and how do you reverse it?
It's not a reverse, it's just a term that we use. It's a term that we use that it's important to know to know both ways of the knowledge.
Yeah, right. Yeah, sure.
So,
And the
so
way,
what so what JT means by the reverse close, see the calcium there, that's one card, and we call the second card, which is synaptotagmin, which is C2, a reverse close.
Absolutely.
Because you're asking the same question but testing two different aspects of that one line.
And the way
So
you
for
do it is by doing it by writing C1 in one of them and C2 in the other one to create
Yes.
two separate cards. And the way you
Yes.
have repetition of data is by having the frozen fields, and that way you don't have to. Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent. Sorry, guys.
Yep. No, that's okay. Yeah, so now after we've made these closes, we're gonna talk about what makes a good close and what makes a bad Anki. So Jason, go ahead.
Yeah, so seeing this example here, so this is a good Anki because in my opinion, you can clearly understand what you're answering because it's very specific, AV node and Purkinje fibers. Okay, they're kind of like a one thing. But if you move on to the next slide, see in this example here, if you read that first part and without any context, you don't understand the question. And the second close or the close at the end of the sentence contains multiple key points. So when you try to answer the card yourself, you may forget that there are actually 2 points the question is answering. But if you go back the previous slide again, JT, it's nice and simple. Like the question can be answered itself just by looking at the context of the card. So so you can answer the question based on the content of the card, and it's very specific.
Yep. Okay. So this leads to our first Anki commandment. We have 10 Anki commandments. Thou shall make short close deletions. Okay. You shouldn't close off the whole thing. It just there's no point in the memory. Like you need to do specific things for Anki. Good. And the second Anki commandment is thou shall include lecture slides in the extra section. Now I'm guilty of not doing this because during our revision, Brosco used to grill me, and then we used to have a misunderstanding about the card, and then I didn't put the slides in the extra section, and then we had to go through the whole lecture folder to find the lecture, and it was just a pain in the ass. So this is just trying to cover your ass in the future to so that you can use the lecture slides for reference in the future. Sweet. Okay, that's finished with close. We're gonna move on to image occlusion. Okay, image occlusion. So we'll first show off, these are the things I'll do later, but we'll show what a good Anki is first. Jason?
Okay, so in this example here, I think that this is a good close deletion, a good image occlusion, because it's just a clear diagram. You know what you're looking at. You're looking at the male reproductive tract, and the labels are very clear, and it's just a good way of learning visual content because you can clearly see what part of the male anatomy what male anatomy we are trying to find out and trying to look at. Yeah, sorry. So I would say this is a bad Anki because this type of diagram can really be put into a table or can be broken down. And once again, in this diagram, you lack a lot of context. You don't know what you're trying to answer or what the question is trying to ask you. So I would say this is a really bad Anki.
Okay, thank you. Now we're going to show off an example. This is something from, I think, your blood vessel lectures. So first off, again, just screenshot. And then you can copy into the close. So you should always stay into close, even though there is an image occlusion thing, don't have to change to it. Just copy into the close and then right click and then press occlude image. Yeah, so run follow. And then a screen should pop up here. Yeah, does that make sense for everyone? So then it'll default to this square thing, or you can use a square or whatever, but then you want to cover it up. Cover up the places that you think are important. So I think these 3 layers are important. And then there's also a fields option over here that you could just write whatever. So you can write blood vessel layers, and then these other sections are also helpful if you want to put stuff there afterwards. You can just you can copy the lecture slide in there too. Okay, so over here, there's 2 options that we have over here: hide one, guess one, and hide all, guess all. So I'll just press both just to show you what happens, and then we can see the cards. So then you'll have to go to your, okay, here we go. So what we have over here, this is a hide one, guess one. Because remember how we had 3 boxes here, but it's only hiding one and the other 2 are revealed. So it depends on the type of Anki that you want to create. Do you want these 2 to give you a hint for this one? Because you know that, oh, then this one has to be called Tunica, right? So it just depends on you in the place that you want to do it. So these are all hide one, guess one. So this is hide all, guess one. So all of these are hidden because you don't want this one to trigger your memory for that one. You want your memory just to know what this one is by itself. And then this was the title that we had in the fields section. Yeah, does that make sense? And then there's one little neat trick that we can create here. So all these 3 are appearing at separate times, right? So what you can do if you want them to appear at the same time is you press the arrow, the select tool, highlight all of them, and then press G on your keyboard, G. And then it becomes one close, one image occlusion. So if you press hide one, guess one, and we go to our card, you'll see that they count as one image occlusion. So all of them are hidden at the same time. So this counts as 1 card, whereas the previous one counts as 3 cards. Yeah, that should be quite simple. Any questions, again, feel free to ask. And then move on to the other example. Oop, okay. No, we only have 1 example, that's all. Okay.
Sorry, could you just go through that last bit again, how you turn multiple cards into one occlusion card?
Yeah.
Cheers.
Let's delete this and start again. So say we have that, that, and that. So they're all 3 independent cards right now, yeah? So what you want to do is you want to select all of them, highlight them with the arrow tool. I believe it's group somewhere. Oh, there, this thing. If you, yeah, so you just press G, and then it'll just appear at the same time.
All right, then. Awesome, thank you.
Yeah, so then you can move it around. Sometimes it's also a bit annoying. So say like, if I want to create another thing here, oh, never mind. No, I don't want to go too deep. It's fine. We'll stick to this.
All righty, thank you.
Okay, so that moves on to our 3rd commandment, is that thou shall include lecture images so we can prepare for the VAE. So this might not apply for MDs1s this year because I don't know if you have a VAE exam, but in any case, you should do anatomy. Oh, it does apply. You should do your anatomy images. So if you have the muscle images, or even if we go back to this one, I'm sure you'll learn about this anyways, right? this will be very important. So instead of having this specific VAE deck at the end of the year, you want to do it as while you're studying. So it's part of your study. And we found that quite effective. Sweet. Yep, go ahead.
Can I just ask for those of us that are not at UWA Med School, what's a VAE and?
It's a visual aided exam. So they usually give us an image from the lecture slides, and they're a bit ridiculous, something like this. And they'll be like, oh, what is this layer? And we're like, oh. So it helps to, and they usually take it from the lecture slide. So it helps to take whatever you have in the lecture slides into the into your Ankis.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Cool. So that's image occlusion. And the third type of Ankis that we have is a summary table. So we're going to go through what a good Anki is. This is a good summary table because it often or not, you won't be, if you have individual cards for ephelis, pipa, melasma, vitiligo, you won't be able to contextualize them and compare it to other diseases. So with this Anki, you can compare, oh, melasma is hyperfunctioning, whereas ephelis is inflammatory. Another example of a good Anki, because we were learning about malignant breast diseases, it was good to just compare all these separately and then be like, oh, what are the key features in them? You don't want to make these Ankis too big, whereas like this one, this is just a lot of information and you don't even know where to look. So it might have been good to just separate these Ankis into different Ankis, or to do them, or to make it into more key stuff. Yeah. So you want to have a summary table at the end of the lecture. And I believe that's our fourth Anki commandment, is that thou shalt make a summary comparison table at the end of the lecture. Yep. Okay, moving on.
Also, like the summary tables might not be appropriate for like every single type of thing. Like sometimes you'll find like certain, like whether it be like, I don't know, biochem or something, it might not make sense. But like for path, for anatomy, and for like particularly for path, it made it so much easier because there's such like small differences between so many disorders. So having a summary table to compare really makes it a lot easier.
Pooja, good question about the specimens. We found it really good because they put all the specimens in a document for us last year, and that's where we got these pictures from, and then that's the exact images that they used for our exam. It was really uncanny. We like, because of Ankis, you're like a monkey brain, you have patterns, and then you recognize that, like, oh, I know what that is. That's just there was an image of the female reproductive system, and we're like, wow, we know what that is. We know exactly what that pointing is. But it's not because we understand, it's because Anki trained us to be like, oh, I know what that is. So that is a downside of Anki. Sometimes your brain will just know what it is, but you have no understanding of it. So you need to complement what you do with Anki into understanding what it is, because otherwise you're gonna remember some really, really like minor details about stuff that just so irrelevant. Okay, moving on. Putting it all together. So we've, I believe Broska's already shared this with everyone. But if you're not UWA, I'll send the link onto the Facebook event. So
sorry for the interruption. Did you show us how to make a summary table, or is that just another kind of image occlusion?
That's just this is just close. I figured like I didn't have. It was just too much to put this all together. Yeah.
There's an add-on that you can get that.
Oh yes. I will show you then. I will show you. Thank you for that. So what we like to do is you just press this table. I think that all Ankis will have it. But this is it's a bit clunky. Yeah. So whatever, you press OK. But afterwards you can't really edit the table. It's a bit annoying. So you want the add-on. It's called Smart Table Editor. And this will let you to edit things. You can highlight them, you can merge cells, you can cool. Add rows, delete rows, but you can't do that with the initial Anki thing. Yeah, thanks, Miriam.
Thank you, yeah.
Okay, so the Google Sheet. This was the Google Sheet that we used to put everything together. This is a bit overwhelming, so I'm just going to go over it into different sections. The first section is, this is the main bit of the Excel sheet. So the first column is the unit code. So last year we have different unit codes, but if this year I think it's just IMED 3220. The second column is the body system. It just helps to organize. The third column was the subject discipline. And then the fourth column is the lecture name. Fifth column was who's responsible for making the Anki. How should you name the lecture? So we used a 4-digit system. The first 2 digits was the week number, day number was the 3rd digit, and then lecture number being the 4th. So then if it's 0823, so 08 is week 8, 2 is Tuesday, and 3 is lecture 3. And I don't think we've had 9 lectures on one day yet, so I think the system works. So that's how you can name the lectures. And it's important because when you show it on Anki, they do it by they number it. Oh, that's a bad example. They number it by alphabetical order. So that's how you should do it. And that goes to the 5th one, is that you should have good organization of Ankis by numbering it correctly. So yeah, the master deck, the sub deck, and then the lecture names. Moving on. So the top bar over here, we just made a counter thing over here, which helps to keep everyone's contribution. It just makes it more fair and accountability, so that not someone doesn't do too many Ankis and someone do too little Ankis. That's something you can do there. You can copy the spreadsheet that we've created and you can just modify it to your own needs. And the other important part is this part, and it's very important. So this is what kept all our cards standardized. So Keely used to do the cards by herself, and the benefit is that you just make them so that they're tailored for yourself. So with Braska, Jason, and Tamrick, we just gave feedback, and then eventually all our cards became similar, and we were all happy with it, because I guess the trade-off is you get more time to do other stuff in life, and then the minor thing is that you just have cards that you didn't make yourself. But the most important part about Ankis is doing them, and doing them that's when you start learning. Okay, going on, and that's how you put it all together. Any questions? Okay, so we're going to exporting. So after you finished creating your deck, so say I've done my deck here. What do I do? I've made my Anki workshop. What do I do to export it? So again, you press the button over here, and then there should be a button to export. Yeah. So you could try that now, actually, with like the 6 cards that you have. You can press export. And then it's important to unclick include scheduling information. So when you do your export it, the first thing you should do after you've created your cards is to actually study it, go through all of the cards, and then you can actually find mistakes. Oh, if you like mistake here, then I should probably delete this card, because you don't want your friends to have shitty cards, right? So you want to edit the cards. If you want, you can press edit, and then you can change it up to newer transmitters are released, whatever. And when you're done with that, then you should export. And because you've done the cards, that's why there will be the scheduling information. So you want to not include the scheduling information. So when your friends do it, they're all in order. Yeah. So that's all you do. And then you upload it into the Google Drive. So we have the Google Sheets, and then within the Google Drive, we separate it into weeks, and then we put them into different weeks for the different Anki cards. We also had redone Ankis. So in the beginning of the year, I made some really bad Ankis, and then Braska decided to edit them because there were just too many bad ones, and then he re-uploaded them so that everyone can use it. So that is a Anki doesn't sync across different devices because then everyone has like different study different study patterns, right? So that's why a good alternative is to use redone Ankis. And then at the end of the year, so when you're preparing for your final exams, we went through each one of the decks that we created and we found the ones that were the most high yield, the most important, usually the summary tables. And then at the end of the year, this is what we used to study at the end. Yep, and then we uploaded that. So
yeah, just to chime in there, JT, sorry.
Yep, go ahead.
A really useful thing to do as well, and I think we kind of alluded to it in the chat, is to actually use the tags function when you're making the cards to indicate what might be high yield. Because that way you don't have to go through everything just before the exam. You already have a tag where you can make a filtered deck, which is something you'll learn later on, and then really easy to review like equations and stuff that you may not have remembered as well as you should have for the exam.
Thanks, Keely. Yep, that's you can definitely use tags. So commandment number 6 is thou shall use Google Drive link to upload your Ankis. This is just to keep everyone organized and make sure that everyone has cards to do. Number 7 is thou shall check the Google Sheets for which lectures to complete. So you don't want to have competing, you don't want to remake an Anki and waste everyone's time, right? Emma, what is tag? So if you go to browse, if you created tags before, these are some of the cards that I've created, and you can check tags and then it'll just show you the cards that have tagged before. And then it's just easier to do that. Nikita, how do we allocate lectures? Usually it's just one person checking. Yeah, thanks, Braska. Yeah, and then just allocating it. Lynette, we're going to get with that now. So how do you study with Ankis? That's the next part. So when you
wait, sorry, JT, maybe because I'm not sure if in the recording people will be able to see the chat. So maybe just explain how we allocate them so people
okay.
recording can, yeah.
So going back up here, how do we allocate? So in the beginning of the week, it was either me or Jason. Usually we look at the lectures for the upcoming week. We type them all down here, and then we would just put people over here. It was just sometimes like Braska's like, oh, I'm a bit busy this week. Can I do some physiology lectures? Because there tend to be the more easier ones. And then because Jason has a pharmacology background, so he's like, oh, can I do the pharmacology ones? And I think most people are quite chill. Like the lectures are quite, unless it's path, no one really wants to do path, but someone has to do them. Yeah, so it's just randomly allocate. There's no algorithm there. Cool. Going to how do you study with Ankis? So when you have to make cards, Lynette, you just watch the lectures, watch it and pause it with the methods that we showed you, and try to make good quality Anki cards. Usually there were around 60 Anki cards per lecture, and it would take, I think, like 2 hours to make a good Anki deck. So it does take quite a bit of time, but because you have the benefit of your friends, right? So when you don't have to make the cards, what you should do is just speed it up to like 1.5 or 2 times speed. And then at the same time, you can just do some active listening for the lectures. Don't be passive, do some active listening and just take notes of what the lecture says for some understanding. This is Keely's slides. She just took on iPad, just wrote some annotations. But in either case, when you do have to make cards or when you don't have to make cards, the thing that you must do immediately after watching the lectures is finish your Ankis. You got to do them right after your Ankis because that's when your retention is the highest. Yeah. So regardless of any COVID or politics or whatever, just do your Ankis at the end of the session, and that will be that's what I counted as end of one study session. So after the first day, day 2 is usually the hardest because this is when your memory is kind of a bit shady. You don't know what the heck's happening. And if you go back to the memory curve, it falls quite a bit, even if you've memorized it, yeah? But what happens is if you trust the algorithm, just keep doing your Anki cards, and you have to do them every day. eventually the curve flattens out. So that's what you want to do. And by the end of the, by your examination period, if you're really religious with your Anki studies, you won't even have to touch it for the exam. You'll probably only have to touch it once. So that's why we say Anki is very efficient, because it helps you to organize what you have to study. Instead of you figuring like, oh, what do I study today? There's like 200 lectures. Which one of them is important? Yeah, so even now, in second year, we're doing cardiology stuff now, and we're looking at some lecture slides from last year, and we're like, wow, we can recall some of these things because of the hard Ankis that we did in the beginning, while we were making them, while we were studying them. Questions?
Hey, JT.
Yep.
Can you just explain to everyone, with doing the Anki cards every day, would you do all of the previous decks or lectures you've done before? Like, would you revise those cards?
I think I can open this up to everyone. I think this is a preference thing. I would tend to focus, I would finish all my reviews before I did something new. Rosca, Keely, what did you guys do?
Yeah, same. Like, yeah, do your reviews before you start new stuff. It also helps to just like compartmentalize like in your mindset as well. I would take breaks between it as well, like do all your reviews. And that's just clicking on the deck as well. That's not like just doing individual lectures, like sub exam topics or anything. It's just like you do everything that Anki tells you to do on the day that Anki tells you to do it. You know, don't mess around and try and yeah,
and the key is to still try and revise all the old content from week 1, even if you're in week 7. And you won't see that content as much, because each time you click a good on the card, the time interval between the next one increases. But it's just really important to still try and keep on track and do your old cards, because that's the key to Anki. That's how you retain in long-term memory and prevent yourself from having to relearn everything right before the exam.
The relearning part is probably the hardest. Like say you've done it a few times here, and then before the exam, and then you completely blank out because it's just all it's like studying again, because you haven't consistently reviewed. And that's the thing about MD, I guess, is you have to be very consistent with your study, and just cramming just really doesn't work. Okay. Anki Commandment, thou shalt complete your Anki reviews every day. The reviews is important. Try not to do new cards. In the first semester, I was trying to do new cards, but then the reviews kept piling up, and they would hit like 2,000 reviews, and it's like, then you just get so overwhelmed, and you're like, oh, I just give up. Number 9, thou shalt complete your Anki decks within 2 business days of released lectures. So you want to finish making your cards first before you do someone else's cards, because you don't want to be the bottleneck, and you don't want everyone to be waiting for you. Everyone wants to be learning anyways, right? And number 10, this is not a repeat. This is a repeat. It's not an error. Thou shalt complete your Anki reviews every day. It's just you have to. That's a good question about ease hell. So what that means is when you do your cards, yeah, let's just say I want to study cards from before. It's very tempting to press again or good or easy, because or hard. Maybe I have to find a better deck. So say there's this card and I roughly have it right. It depends on you, but you should try pressing good or easy, because if you press hard, that means you'll see that card very consistently, and that just means that you have way more cards to do. So with Roscoe, Jason, we all shared the same cards, but because I kept pressing hard, I eventually ended up doing like 1,000 more cards than Jason. 10,000 more cards than Jason by the end of the exam, because I was pressing hard. Because it might be very tempting, but trust the algorithm to press good. Just let it extend, and then if you actually don't remember it, then you can press hard. Okay. I think that's basically it. There's some other resources. There are way of other people who use Ankis better than us. Anking is one of them. They create a lot of add-ons that we've used today, or Glutamate creates a lot of add-ons. The medical school Anki Reddit is really good because they have the USMLE decks that we might be using as well. They might not be specific for MD1s, but for MD3s, MD4s, they're quite useful, but they're US focused for their exams, and there's nothing Australia wide. But I think that's one thing that we might want to do in the future. Broska, the Anki boys might want to do something for Australia focused, and check the add-ons because there are quite a few fun add-ons that make Anki more fun. So yeah, if you guys have any more questions, please feel free to ask us.
Sorry, I'm gonna, yeah, go on, sorry.
Oh no, someone asked in the chat if there's a way of cramming using Anki before the exam.
Broska, do you want to say what you did?
So in first semester when we were just making our own Ankis, I'd pretty much just make Ankis throughout the semester, and then I wouldn't really like review them. I would just kind of have them there, and I'd be like, you know what, I've made them. And I guess I knew them better because I'd made all of them. But by the end of it, I had like thousands of like almost new cards to review the night before. I think I just kind of sat down, and I don't know if it's effective. I don't think it was fine. It was really stressful, but like you just sit down and like smash the key enough, and then you just kind of look at the cards. I don't know. It's not really I didn't feel like I definitely forgot the information a lot quicker. I guess you can cram with anything really, but with MD it was a bit more stressful to have to cram a lot of like thousands of Ankis in like 12 hours. Yeah. I don't suggest it.
If you do it regularly, you actually don't need to cram for the exam, which is a really actually very strange feeling for me, being one of those people that always like looks at all the content right before the exam. But with MD, there's just too much to be able to actually just flick through it. It's just too much. It
was weird before the exam. I was like, I should be way more stressed out. I should be cramming a lot harder. And then I would like just re-review cards that I've already seen just to like do something. Cause like, this is what I'm meant to be doing. I have an exam tomorrow. But yeah, you don't really have to because you've already seen the cards so many times.
Keely, as someone who's done it solo, if you could go back again, would you do the same? Or do you think the extra free time from doing it in a group would be worth it for the trade-off of not having sort of personalized cards?
That is a tricky question. I personally I'm a bit of a control freak. So I really liked the autonomy and like not having to rely on other people. Like, you know, the guys had a really good thing going and I really respect that. But obviously they also have a good friendship. Like they're really, you know, they trust each other that they're going to get it done. But I know of a lot of failed Anki groups from our year, people that tried to get together, but people, you know, caught behind or had other personal stuff on. I personally can't rely on someone else, you know, if I don't trust them fully. So unless you have like a dedicated group and you're all willing to put in the work together, having your own autonomy with making your own Anki cards that are personalized takes freaking forever, but it's worth it in the long run, I think.
And one of the main benefits of making cards yourself is that you tend to learn them a bit better when you do make the cards yourself, because that's what I found when I tried to do it myself.
Yeah, like making them is the first step of learning, really.
Yeah, I will say that some of the good things, like good strategies that JT's included in this, like the including of slides in the extra portion of the card is really good, so that way you can kind of check on your friends' cards like with relation to the lecture. And then I think, because I can speak for like having made all of my own cards, I definitely, I remember between like comparing making my own cards in semester one versus like working in a group, the workload for me personally was like significantly reduced. Like it was unbelievable how much more chill it was for me, but I guess we got lucky because we had a good group of people. I don't think it's, I think it's worth trying to find a group of people that are willing to kind of make Ankis together, because once you guys kind of get into the routine of it and you realize that's actually a lot less work working together, then hopefully people will kind of stick to what they're meant to do. And you have to work in teams down the line eventually, so it's pretty cool to also have that camaraderie while you're doing it, because I felt like we were all in it together, which is kind of nice.
Like it made it fun because, especially with last year, we had so many lectures per week, and it was kind of nice, at least like knowing, oh, I don't need to make Anki cards for that lecture. I can just watch it and then do it right after.
Also, another thing that I would do is I would literally it got to the point where I relied so much on Ankis. Like at first, I would pretty much watch the lecture on I watched the lecture on 2 times speed, the ones that someone else had made a deck for, and I just stare at the computer and really take it in, which is the right move. And also you'd be surprised how much you can get when you're actually just paying attention to a lecture and not trying to write notes as you're doing the lecture. So that's pretty good. But then also sometimes it would just be be playing a lecture in the background, vaguely having an idea of what's going on, and then just smashing through all the cards. So yeah, different things work for different people, I guess.
Guys, I have some technical questions. Is it appropriate to ask them here or later on?
Maybe you stay after, and then I can help you sort them out.
Thank you, Jim. Yeah, thank you, Jim.
For the empty ones, I think we'll be sharing all our Anki decks with everyone. So you're welcome to use them. We'll give you the link for them. I know there are a lot of overlap with the lectures. So I think that's good. You can maybe create all your Anki cards yourself. You just have to refine them a bit. And we're all here just to share our knowledge anyways. So yeah, happy.
Legends.
No. We used cards from previous years. I think we're just passing it along and hope you guys do the same. I think it's just a very, I think with MD, it's just a very supportive community that we've come to realize that, yeah, you're not stepping over each other to get anywhere.
I just have a question for Keely. How long do you reckon it took you to do one lecture, for example? Because this morning I've just done one and it's taken over 3 hours for one, and I'm just starting out. But man, to do 4 a day, I don't know.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I personally like to watch the entire lecture beforehand. I've said this in the chat as well, but just to watch it, understand it, know where they repeat important stuff, and then go back and really consolidate all the information and make Anki cards after. So I'd probably watch the lecture on 1.25, 1.5 speed, and then afterwards spend about an hour. So I really accommodate 2 hours for max for watching a lecture and making the Anki cards. Some lectures are a lot more content in them. So path and anatomy might take you a bit longer with all the diagrams and image occlusion, but as a general rule, I'd say 2 to 3 hours is pretty good. And I used to, steadily chug along at doing 2 lectures a day, plus about 2 hours of, Anki reviews and news and everything. So yeah, depends on how your course is structured, but that's my experience.
Okay, cool, thanks.
No worries.
Hey, just got a quick question. You were talking about high yield cards before. I just want to, were you saying you label as a tag high yield, and then at the end of the exam, you take all the high yield cards and make a deck from that?
Yeah, I can show you what happened. So I didn't tag them, but I can show you, say you can use Anki for almost anything. I use Spanish, right? So let's say I select these cards, and you can change the deck, and you can create them. You can create a new deck. It'll be high yield, and then you copy them into it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you would do that with mainly the summary cards and the big cards, so you could keep going over those ones again towards the end.
So then, yeah, over here, that's where all the high yield, the Spanish cards are. Yeah.
Yeah. Alrighty. Thank you.
No worries. If that's all the questions, very happy to help everyone. You can still put questions on the Facebook event page, and the recording. I think it's gonna end up on my computer, and I'll upload it somewhere, and then everyone can see it. But we'll see if everyone's happy. Maybe in the middle of the year, we can make an advanced Anki where we go a bit deeper into the settings. But this is just basic. How to use Anki and how to create cards, and then I think along the way you'll realize, what the shortcuts to use and how to make it more efficient. But thanks everyone for coming. And for those who wanted to ask more specific questions on, you can stay back. Yeah, thanks guys.
Thanks for that.
No worries.
Hey JT, do you mind if I ask how you use Anki Web? Because when I look online, it says that it's a free companion to the computer version. That means you'll be able to use it when you don't have access to your home computer, like maybe if you're using the UWA computers in the libraries. How would you get that?
I don't know. I'm gonna try this. I'm not sure if I remember my login. I've never used Anki Web. I've used it a few times. Damn, I don't know my password. But I think it's essentially the same. It still shows up as like it still shows up as this. So on the bottom, you can still do again, hard, good, or easy. Does that answer your question?
Thanks. I'll figure it out.
Yeah. And did Marilyn have questions again? I forget.
Hey, thank you. Now, sorry, I'm going to be a Muppet, but you just got to bear with me.
No, it's okay. Happy to help.
I've got this bad habit of once I don't know what it is, I look at the answer, but then I want to be able to just go back and then not see the answer again, you know, like close or covered occlusions, and then go, what was it again? Blah, 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 and back and forth. But there is no option for that. Is that an add-in? Like replay with, you know what I mean? Just the immediate
Replay.
back. Yeah, just like an immediate back. So the moment I've seen the answer, and if I failed it, I want to go back.
There's no button, but you can press Control Z and it replays the card again.
Oh yeah.
So like if JT.
Yeah.
So just do that and then press
Control Z. Yeah.
Beautiful. Okay, that was Control Z. That's on a computer on my mobile.
I think there's a button on the top right that's like restart. I think.
Is that right?
It's also like sorry, there's like a edit undo button. Yeah.
I think there was something like that. Yeah.
So you can go back from seeing the answer to back just the question, and then you can
Yeah, so I'm right now in the middle of my deck in Anki on my mobile, Apple, and I've got, you know, like the green, blue, and red on the bottom. And where do I see the undo? Is that in browse or?
I'm gonna show you my phone. Does anyone have Jason, you have an iOS, right?
Oh wait. What I actually don't press Control Z. What you do, if you press Edit, and then just press Close again, it goes back to the question without.
Yes.
That's what I do actually.
There you go. Okay, got that one.
Yeah.
Excellent. Edit. Yeah, very good. Sorry, guys.
And then just close it again.
There's also this button on this on Android, but there's that button that says go back.
Yeah, I don't see that on mine.
Wait, there might be a thing where because I'm pretty sure there's a free Anki app. I mean, and then there's one that you have to pay money for. And I think the free one just has less options for it. I'm not sure if that's what the difference would be, but the app especially with Apple, I think that there's like an Anki app that you pay for, and it's like $20 or something.
The Anki app that you pay for is actually made by the developer. The other ones, because of the way that Anki actually works, it's not difficult to make ones that kind of
mimic it.
Yeah, but to actually use all those options, they're all just made for the Anki app. So he actually made a problem.
Actually, you know what? I'll have a look now. I'll see because I'm not sure I think I might have bought the app at some point. Yeah, I think I did. Okay, I have to re-download it now. I'll have a look and I'll see if you can do it on the paid for app.
Beautiful. So can I go to my next question? Sorry.
Go for it.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Right now, I just want to make sure we're all agreeing. Once I make my new Anki card and I press add, the only way I can see all of them is having a browse, like have a browse tab open to see all of them. Do we all agree? Is that the fastest way?
Yeah.
Excellent. Okay. Yep.
Also, is this what your Anki thing looks like on your phone?
Blah, blah, blah. Sorry.
Sorry. I get like less glare. Because wait a minute. If you could find, what does your actual application look like? Because there is multiple. I think you may have the like the fake Anki thing. Anki, there's one called Anki app flashcards. There's another one called Anki mobile flashcards.
Yeah, so this one I paid, this one is the one I paid whatever, 30, 40 bucks. And then I uploaded onto the web and downloaded onto this one. So
then if you go onto, do you see the little settings thing in the bottom right hand corner?
Yep.
If you click on that, it should have an undo option, and then you should be able to go back.
Yeah, but then the undo doesn't come on the screen. So, can you see me or?
I can't see you. I can see your fan.
Is that? Oh.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah. Hello. Okay. Yes. So
can you? Yeah, I'm pressing the undo. Can you see that?
Yeah.
And then, okay, here we go. Like imagine here, right? So if I after first show the answer to say I messed up, and then I do undo. It goes undo back to the previous question for me.
And you just want to see the card that you're looking at right now.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I suppose then what you would do is you just you would undo and then you'd click ahead, I guess. I'm not too sure. Yeah, sorry about that.
Okay.
So it should go back to the same question, but
so we have two methods then. One of them was what the elder gentleman said with the edit and then go back and then this one as well. Okay, good. And then last question. Every time you guys make your decks, do you guys export it to make sure that it's safe? Because I don't know where these things are getting. Okay.
Yeah. So what we do is we'd export our decks, put them on the desktop, or that's where I put mine, and then I would upload them to a Google Drive. Where the rest of us uploaded all our decks.
Okay, and then one last question. Sorry.
Go for it. Nice.
Right now, I've got my decks on the weeks. But I would like to have them also under another heading. So instead of duplicating the data, how can I do that? Like, so also under physiology as well. So in case I just want to do physiology.
Oh, so you want to essentially wait? Are you saying that you want to have multiple sets of the same cards just under different decks?
Absolutely, but without adding data, but creating phantom links. You know what I mean?
I'm not sure about that. I pretty much just had mine under week by week. And I think to be honest, I think I'm not sure how the course is structured now. But I think just having it by week and time and then kind of just doing all the Ankis for a given period of time is pretty good for the assessments at least. But yeah, I'm not too sure.
Okay, beautiful.
Maybe if
Thank you.
Yeah, no.
Yay!
I know perhaps I know you can add tags, so perhaps you may want to do a tag where all the physiology decks you can just write physiology as a tag, and then you can make a custom study session, and then you can sort of select only physiology cards for your custom study session, and then it'll just take out all the physiology from all your decks and put it in one deck, and then you can just study that.
Okay.
There's
so I do that in tags.
You may want to add that in tags, perhaps. That's just one way. I'm sure there's a million other ways you can do it, but yeah, Anki's very complex.
Very good. Thank you.
Anyway, guys, I'm off. I'll see you guys later in the day, and then I'll see you.
Yeah, same here. All the best. See you guys.
Good luck.
I'll be staying if anyone has questions just for a bit, but yeah, thanks for coming.
Can you show us where the review cards are?
What do you mean review cards?
You said sort of all the old ones that you have to review versus new ones. Is it just the cards that are due, or?
Okay, so the due are the green ones and the new are these ones. So say it was okay, I just study for this, right? And then what a normal day would be, I'll be studying this, and then I'll study them. and then I'll just do them bit by bit, yeah, and then whatever. So you can see all the add-ons I have. I have like a hit marker, and then after I finish all the reviews, then I would do the new ones.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, that's a lot of reviews though, is it?
But this is because I haven't been doing them over the summer.
Okay.
So like yeah, this is what I have for today for this year. This is for MD2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when you guys are going through cards, like how do you just, I guess like I would just read the question and try to like mentally recall the answer and then look at the answer and check if I've got it right. Like how do you guys go about reviewing it? Because it seems like 1,000 a day is a lot to do. How you do it so quickly.
Well, I don't think we did it quickly. I think the average time, even for these days, right? So these days were like 3 hours of study. So if this is for the advanced users. If you go into your stats, that's when you get quite. Okay, it doesn't really work because I haven't. Because I haven't been doing cards recently. Yeah, so okay, so you're like, how do I do them? You try to aim for under 10 seconds per card. If it's more than 10 seconds per card, then you'll realize that the cards are maybe too long. So you want to shorten your Ankis into shorter Anki, shorter closes. Does that make sense? I think you're muted, but let's say I'm gonna do my study for today. Then you're like, oh, okay. Have you ever smoked? How long have you smoked for? How many packets do you smoke? How many years have you smoked? So this is kind of a bad card because these two are the same thing. But okay, let's just say that's good. So this takes some time. If some cards, so I think there's a timer here. I'm not sure if that applies for everyone. If you realize that it's like over 30 seconds, then you realize, oh, I might not actually know this card. Then I'll either edit it or I'll just press halt again. So you see how I put the lecture slide here and this is a screenshot from Google because I didn't know what these words meant. Yeah. Does that help, Hayat?
Sorry,
Yeah.
me? Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Feel free to ask questions. I'm going to be here for a bit.
Okay. Sorry, Junting. I have so you're right. When you're going back on your apps, your decks, you want to have a look and see which ones you want to change. And then you show the answer. And then when I show the answer, when I want to edit it, my screen does not give me any of the fields to edit. So it just becomes a blank one. So I'm sure I've clicked some button to affect this. How do I undo this? Or
Was there stuff to show in the beginning?
yeah, so imagine if I just had a simple, yeah, that's right. Imagine if I just want to edit a word, I've written a word wrong. And if I want to go back and edit it right now, it's just completely blank in here in the edit section.
I'm not sure I can help with that. I think that's like a troubleshoot. Maybe you have to restart your app. I'm not so sure.
It's a troubleshoot, okay.
Yeah. I'll just do Ankis if you guys are still here, but feel free to leave if you want. This is what I do for revision. You can't. Oh, I guess you can, but they'll just build up. So yeah. Oh, I'll answer Emma's question first. So say So there's an add-on called Postponed Cards, and then you can postpone for like 5 days, and then you'll realize, oh, okay, I guess that doesn't work because those are. So that's what you can do to postpone it, but then that'll just cause problems because then you'll just have buildup of cards. I would say I wouldn't study during summer because I don't think the cards are relevant. Like the stuff I've learned from MD1 isn't entirely relevant for MD2 because some of them were really specific. Like sometimes I learn about the specific outdated medication for erectile dysfunction, and I didn't want to do that. So during the summer, I just wanted to keep my streak. So I did like a minimal amount of cards every day. Does that answer your question, Emma? With Sam, how do you decide which cards to review each day? Okay, so this is a bit more specific. So this is the semester. I created an AA deck, which was essentially cards that I had to do that day. And then I would, if I had time, then I would do my exam 1, exam 2 cards. Because it's a commandment that you should do all your cards every day, but then you'll realize it just starts building up. And so you see the pre-semester is so much because because it was very unlikely that those cards would come up in the real exam. So you still have to prioritize which cards you want to do. I think there were maybe only like 5 days that we finished all our cards, but then it's just painful. The next day you're gonna have much more cards to do. I think they give you a prediction, so it'll be like, oh, tomorrow I have 28 cards. So you see the algorithm actually works like that on like the different type of cards that you have due every day. And then I would usually review all my cards and then do 2 or 3 new lectures every day. So those would be decks I downloaded from the drive and then I imported them. But that was really tiring. Like I think at a point, like maybe I used to study 7 or 8 hours, and then after a while, your brain is just a bit fried. Does that answer your question, Sam? Yeah, so with every lecture, there's a bunch of cards. So within, this is the lecture, and I think there's like 60 cards, but there's only 30 cards to review. I would then drag them under this exam. So you can drag and drop them into different sections. So let's say that, oh, I'm like, okay, I have to do these cards. After it's in the AA folder, I'll drop it back to where it belongs. Yeah. And then within the exam, I also sub-categorized it into like the different systems. So there's endocrine, reproduction. So if I decided to do just endocrine study, I would just press this whole deck, and then I would just get all endocrine cards. Whereas if I wanted to just do endocrine anatomy, I would just do that deck. How do I make subgroups? So within each, whenever you create a new deck, it comes up here. There won't be a plus or minus beside it. So if I wanted to put this CVS disease under, okay, this is a perfect example. So this is MD2 stuff. If I wanted to copy that over here, I would put that, you see how it turns a bit gray? And then it gets subgrouped under that. If I wanted to put this under that, I don't know for what reason, and then I'll just do that. And I want to drag it back up, and then I can do that. Yeah. No worries. So for this one, I'm just making cards for it right now. That's why I'm not, I haven't dragged it anywhere. And I've put an X behind these ones because they're, I don't want to touch them anymore. So I'm just putting them on the bottom of the table. Yeah. keep at the questions. I don't mind. Or you're free to leave too. The workshop has ended. No worries, Emma. See you later.
What's the difference between deleting a note and deleting a card? Is it the same thing?
Yes. I didn't want that question, but I think a card, okay, a card is this individual card, but this whole note has a lot of closes. So if you check the whole note, there's like 10 cards within the note. So if you delete the card, you're deleting this one specific card.
Okay, so the note is the master. Okay, good.
Yeah, you very unlikely you'll want to delete a note. Yeah.
Okay.
So if you see what I'm doing now, sometimes it's very quick because they're like quite cards that I've seen before. I'm familiar with them. No worries, Sam. I'm very happy to help. You can still use the cards, I think, for curtain. If the lectures overlap. But I think with these cards, especially the MD2 cards that we're like, I can show you, we're learning about cardiovascular disease now. I think these will overlap with you in your third year or second year. So I think we'll be very happy to share these as well. So if you look at these are quite, you can even use the US ones because they're we're all still learning medicine. It's, yeah, depends on what. No worries, Hayat. I think it's just a few of us here now. Yeah, I might have to end it soon because I'm gonna have some lunch. But yeah, feel free to just post on the events page or just find me on Facebook even. Yeah, we're all very, very happy to help with Ankis. We're not like gurus. We just used it for a year and that's how we come to use it. Yeah, but I'm gonna stop sharing now. And I'll put this online. Thanks, guys. Ciao.
Thank you so much.
No worries.